Hey guys, we have Richard Lee here. He is one of the co-founders of Certus One, which is a staking as a service company. He will be basically talking about how to calculate rewards as a validator, so you know how much you can potentially make. And I'll pass the mic off to him.
Hey guys, hey everyone. Thanks for joining. Yes, I'm Richard, and today we will walk through some of the costs and rewards calculations and just a breakdown of how much money you can look while running a validator company. I just want to preface that this talk is more going to be more on the business side, so I'm not going to try to cover anything super technical. I'm going to actually avoid that on purpose, but I think it'll be very interesting for you guys to experience, what it takes, what kind of a cost, breakdown of profitability, just thinking about the basic fundamentals of running a validator company. So that's how I'm going to preface this talk. All right. So what you'll learn from this, always do it for the memes. There's going to be plenty of memes. You'll precisely learn how to calculate how many Lambos you'll have and when you'll have a tricycle. And are validators more profitable than Wall Street bets or $1,000 for a month call options on Tesla? The people in the crowd understand this. I think you'll get it. Okay, but in seriousness, the presentation will be less technical and more about economics. We're going to cover stuff like profitability of common proof of stake protocols from a validator's perspective. We're going to be calculating economics of rewards. We're going to be doing current costs of running a validator, just a quick overview. It's going to be a quick breakdown. We're going to cover some of the tooling, specifically figuring out where to go to find this information, what numbers to use, how does the math work out. I have some basic level math examples down there. What is up and coming? So I think that's really important, is to learn what is up and coming in the space, so you can kind of anticipate how the space might shape out if you're looking to start a company or start a validator. The inevitable, arguably one of the more common words, commoditization, that's potentially going to be here. Again, the long-term landscape, and last, we'll leave a few minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes for Q&A. So thanks for joining on a Saturday. I'll try to keep this as least dry as possible, and of course, it's going to be filled with memes. Okay, so personal background, I think is good just for reference, so you kind of know. I found out about Bitcoin the day after it launched. I was on the original Cypherpunks mailing list. I was almost there, back in college. A lot of people watching this or listening to this right now is from college. I was there. I almost bought the pizza. I was sitting there. I saw the forum post go up, and I was like, oh, should I do this? But no, I decided I needed the money for beer. Which I think, looking back, was not a great decision. I've done a lot of mining back as early as 2010. Started on GPUs, started on the USB sticks, if you remember, if people are around, FPGAs, ASICs. I've tried it all. I've done a lot of that. I've experienced and seen every major scam. Nowadays, you guys have like Coinbase and Gemini and Kraken and Binance. Back in the day, the exchanges were brutal. You never kept your money on the exchanges. Not your keys, not your money, right? Entered POS early, kind of saw this evolution of POS happening, and decided to get involved very early on. Okay, so who we are. So we're doing, I think Hendrik is going to be doing another presentation later in this conference, specifically covering some of the more technical validator side, but this is the three of us of Certus One, Hendrik, Leo, and I. What we do three main things. So we have validation. We also handle a lot of support, and we're building something called SignOS, which we'll cover slightly later on. So about the company, we're currently based. The team is based in San Francisco. Personally, I'm in San Francisco. Hendrik and Leo are both in Berlin area. There was a adversarial competition called Game of Stakes, which was launched on the Cosmos blockchain. We'll use that as a primary example in this. We placed first across all 6 ranking categories. We're a validator for a few networks. We're fairly, very, very selective with what networks that we're on. We don't just join every single network, and we run an Oracle or two. Our backgrounds, I think Hendrik will have a better comprehension of their background. They come from low-level system engineering, network, and security engineering. We work with a lot of funds and institutions for when they look into delegate. Helping them through the process of staking. We have deal with a lot of legal taxation issues. And for fun, I think if for all the hackers or nerds in the group, we play at DEF CON's annual Capture the Flag. This past year, they represent Team Germany, and they placed 7th, from I believe. Okay, so I think I'm not going to keep this as super technical, so I'm going to just go over this fairly brief. And so kind of there's a lot of different types of proof of stake protocols, but for this talk, what I'm going to tackle is arguably the one with the highest technical requirements, and that's generally going to be Cosmos, so BPOS technically. And so the reason why is some of these take significantly less costs and significantly less profitable. And so it's really hard to compare do cost and rewards calculations. One does not equal another. Like running a master node does not equal running a validator on Cosmos. They're completely different levels of technical requirements and technical abilities. And so I found when I was doing some of this planning for this, I thought it was really difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the highest requirements, Cosmos, and you'll be able to see what it takes to break down from there. And to run a master node, some of them are very cheap to run. Like $100 a month cloud instance should be able to handle them. But you'll see later in this presentation that running a highly available, high secure validator on blockchains that have high slashing conditions is a very complex thing to do. If you're new to this, I wouldn't really worry about this chart. I think just learning primarily the ones the few that are on here that should cover it. I think just if you're gonna learn this, just look at one from each of these categories. Like look at EOS, look at Tezos, look at Cosmos, look at Decred, and maybe look at LivePeer or Cardano and Dash, specifically Dash. Once you look at those 4 or 5, I think you'll have a great overview of how these things are different and how they compare to each other. Okay, so we're going to start on Tendermint, so Cosmos, essentially. Why Cosmos? I kind of outlined this slightly earlier. There's a few key points here. It is very difficult to run a highly available and secure validator. The conditions are very intense. The requirements are high, and the penalties are very, very high. There's absolutely brutal slashing conditions. So if you double sign, 5% of your stake gets slashed. So for some, I can compare it later on, but for the largest, I think validator has something like 14 million atoms. That's over $50 million, I believe. And so if you lose 5% of that because you messed up, that's a brutal slashing. That's millions of dollars. So the reason why we picked this is, again, it's the bar. It's the highest. It's arguably currently in the ecosystem the most difficult validator to run is for basically Tendermint based currently. There's going to be other ones that are challenging that are coming up, and so this is why proof of stake is really starting to take off. But currently, this is the bar. Most other chains are far simpler. Also, what Cosmos offers is one of the largest and most diverse validator sets. The reason why this is important is because you'll be able to see later on an example of the profitability across the range. So a lot of times when people look at profitability of validators, they look at the top 3 or top 10. Now, that is not a great representation of the ecosystem. So the goal of it is to see over the entire massive set of validators to be able to see, like, hey, if I was validator number 70 on this network, could I make enough money to be able to cover my costs, or is it very profitable, and so forth. As a result, it is the best live chain, and also because it's been a live chain, it's been live for some time now, and so a lot of these new POS systems are not quite there yet, or just coming on board, and there's not enough data, or there's really new and they're barely working. But Tendermint's or Cosmos specifically has been around for a while, and so it's a good reflection of the current ecosystem. And it also, last part, is because of the brutal slashing conditions and the brutality of this network, it demonstrates the best adversarial conditions. So it's kind of like, I guess the way to think about it, maybe kind of reflects capitalism in a sense that the best move to the top. If you're, it's got those kind of levers to reflect performance, security, availability, legal, also such as marketing is big key. I think it's a great maybe not sandbox, but a great test bed to gather data on. So how validators make money? So the primary way, there are other ways validators make money, but I'm just going to cover the 98% way validators make money, and it's through commission rates. So validators charge a commission rate. This ranges from 0% to as high as 100%. So what is the commission rate? It is generally a small fee validators charge their delegators to provide the service. So it's, for example, I'm going to use Cosmos again as an example. The current yield, or rather inflation rate, is 8.27%. So if you hold 100 atoms, you're expected to get 8.27 more atoms at the end of the year, at the end of the year, provided it stays stable. So if a user staked 1,000 atoms for a year and a validator charges 5% commission, how many atoms would the validator earn? And so the math is very simple. It's 1,000 atoms multiplied by, well, it's supposed to be 8.23, typo there, but it's 8.23% times 0.05% commission rate. So the validator is expected to earn 4.115 atoms. And so you can see that it's a few from this math, and it doesn't really change. You can increase your commission. You can do all of these things or decrease your commission. But if you look at the pure economic side of it, it's really the math really comes down to you need to have a lot of delegations in order to make money. There's no other arguably way to really do it. Okay, so before we get a little more deep, this chart is a great, I think, representation, or demonstrates what is kind of some of the current proof of stake systems and what their reward is. So what you want to pay attention to, forget the adjusted reward. I think you can look into that later. If you're more advanced, feel free to use that as a number. But I'm just going to use a simple reward. I think it's very easy for people to understand. So we look at Tezos 5.83. Cosmos 8.23, Live Peer 63, Synthetics 57, 58, Decred 8.33, Waves. And so that kind of gives you a ballpark figure of what kind of these yields are you're going to be receiving. So keep in mind, as a validator company, you're only earning a small percentage of that. And so if you're not earning 8, you're earning 5% of 8.23%. Okay, so the next part is, how do validators decide on commission rates, right? So it's this is a very contested topic. Certain validators charge 0%, and kind of there's been a lot of back and forth on various forums about how that impacts the ecosystem. But it really comes down to at the end of the day, you're running a business to a certain extent. There are a lot of people that are idealists that are running this, or just enthusiasts that are running this for fun. We'll cover that later. But it comes down to cost, infrastructure costs, operations. It also think about risk. Some of them do contributions. Like one of the validators, I believe, donates a lot of money to zero knowledge proof research. There's the People's Validator, which was cover that a little later. Different demographics. Running a validator in San Francisco is significantly more expensive than running one in China, or other countries, or other less developed nations. It's just pure math, and just paying salaries, paying server costs. We'll cover some of that later. Others, a lot of times validators just copy others. First validator sets 15% commission, all the other ones just follow. It happens all the time. You have to attracting delegators. So some validator companies are investment funds. Some of them are exchanges, and others are even wallets. So they create a wallet, and you just put your tokens in the wallet. You click one button. Ideally, their validators at the top. You click it, you automatically delegate to them. So they build other ancillary products to be able to support their delegators and driving more delegations to their validator. Okay, so this is a little more math intensive, but I think this is a really quick overview. I don't want anyone to get really lost in the numbers, but we're going to take two. Certus 1 is currently not a validator on Tezos, so these numbers are plus minus, I think, 10%. Because I'm not personally super familiar with doing the math on Tezos, but on Cosmos it's fairly accurate. So we look at Cosmos has 100 validators. Well, there's more than 100, but at only the top 100. And so we look at the profitability. You look at the largest validator currently on Cosmos is 12.4 million atoms staked on it. The cost of atom is $4.40. It's like almost $50 million. Their commission rate is 4%. They make about doing that math, about 40,970 atoms per year. They make about $180,000 in revenue per year. Now the 20th validator is Huobi. Huobi is an exchange, so they offer. They have 2.7 million. This is supposed to be 100%, not 0%. Sorry, it's supposed to be 100%. So they actually does 0%. No, it's 0%. Grandfish is 100%. So yeah, they charge 0% commission, and thus they are not making any money from this. The 50th validator, for example, is another smaller group. Mythos, they have 761,000 atoms. They charge 15% commission, and they make about $41,000 a year. And 100th validator, just by sheer luck, is called Grandfish. 100%, 100,000. Same with Tezos. You look on Tezos, you're looking at the number one largest validator, makes about 141,000. These are just rough math. Tezos, there's a lot of ways you can play with the numbers, so it's not as accurate. 20th validators does about 62,000, 56,000 for 50th, 9,000 some dollars for 100th. Okay, so the key takeaways is that an unproportionate amount of profit is concentrated on the top validators. It is not so easy to make money, so don't quit your day job right away and be like, today I'm going to start a validator company and I'm going to be able to make like $200K a year. There's fierce competition from zero commission validators. We're starting to see more and more zero commission validators from various exchanges, various service providers. Cover that a little later. And the last part, I know few people don't agree with me on this, but I don't think validators, unfortunately, currently in its current state, it's a venture scale business. Venture scale business meaning that you raise capital from venture capitalists and you build this into a massive scalable business. We're starting to see some of that have issues with some of the other current venture funded businesses, at least from my understanding. Okay, so we're going to break down the cost structure of validators. So what I'm going to cover is the 3 tiers. So there's really easy way. I'm trying to make this as easy way to think about it. So there's 3 tiers. There's the professionals. There's the small groups, or I say like hardcore enthusiasts. And then you have like enthusiast, casual. And so the professionals are multiple full-time employees with deep technical knowledge and experience, professionals set up with redundancy, security, risk management, legal, HSMs, custom tooling. Most run own hardware and data center or expensive cloud setups. Typically charges the highest commission rates on average. Small groups are typically have the team as part-time or have other priorities. Some of them are full-time employees at a large tech company and they do this in their part-time. Are generally not a lot of times they're not expert engineers in the required field. They're just learning on the go. For example, I just want to give an example. I'm not saying anybody out there, but they're front-end engineer and they're running a validator, which is very heavy backend, very heavy network at the network level, systems level, security level. And so a lot of them are just kind of like fiddling with it. And so they're not, that's a good representation of that group. And some of them are 2 to 3 man teams, and we're starting to see like a university group. These are more these small groups. They may make some money, they may not, they might break even, they might doing it just for fun. But the enthusiasts, the last group, the enthusiasts, casually doing it for fun, passion, or a lot of times it's even idealism. They just do it because they believe in the project and what they're building. And so there's very different cost structures for each of these 3 groups. And so you got to think about which one you're going to do. If you're going to be a small group, you're going to get like 2 of your buddies that are engineers and you're like, all right, guys, let's launch this validator company. And it's only part-time and, you guys have full-time jobs or you're in school full-time. Cool. Great for you. But the jump from small group to professional, I think is a kind of a good gap because of the stuff that's required. You need these like serious redundancies, there's legal agreements, tooling. You got to do hardware. Like I know a lot of people are just software engineers. Like doing hardware is its own beast. You have to run actual physical servers and data centers. And I've personally tried this, and it's actually very complex. It's a whole new things you have to learn about networking and routing that I have absolutely no idea how to do. Okay, so here's a cost estimate of what it takes to run these types of validators, like at the professional level, at the small group level, and at the enthusiast level. So at the top, I say the crazy setup. These are just keep in mind this is excluding salaries, and so salaries is the next topic. So the crazy setup, now this setup, I call it crazy setup because this setup is specifically built for enterprises. What we have seen or we're seeing is large enterprises come into the space. Now they have all the money in the world, or they have like millions of dollars to spend, and this is what's costing them. So they have enterprise-grade hardware. I know most of you are familiar with enterprise-grade hardware. It's really expensive to install and maintain. They have enterprise-grade HSMs. They're not running like YubiKeys. YubiKey HSMs are $750 a piece. They're running, enterprise-level HSMs that are for compliance reasons. Those things, I believe, cost anywhere from $25,000 to $35,000 each. They have a lot of processes. They have a lot of security. They have like a whole team dedicated to these things. They're redundant, custom tooling. Easily $50K plus in upfront costs, easily $15K a month. And I haven't even taken into account personnel costs, because when they set these things up, they require very specialized personnel. Now, this doesn't really apply to any current validator companies, but we're going to start seeing, I believe, in the future, enterprise level validators, and that's what they're going to be kind of running. Now, this is where the top professionals are. These are like probably the creme of the crop. There's probably maybe 5 teams max that run at this level generally, I believe. Enterprise hardware, run HSM, security, multi-redundant. So they either have something like what we have built. We built something called Janus, where we run multiple validators in different data centers, and they use the same key. They have a huge Sentry network. Just pure cost basis and estimation is about $10,000 to $35,000 in upfront costs, and about $3,000 to $10,000 a month in ongoing costs. Just keep in mind that's excluding salaries. Your average validator company, your average professional validator company runs physical hardware, or some of them run in the cloud. But again, running in a singular cloud like AWS or GCP runs into some problems. If you ping me afterwards, I can give you examples. There was a AWS outage and a whole bunch of validators went down. They run HSMs. They have security. They use something like AWS's HSM's solution. A lot of them are single redundant. So what that means is, I think Luke covered it briefly, is that they'll have a backup server in another location. Let's say you run one validator in a physical data center in San Francisco. You have a backup one in New York. And if the San Francisco one goes down, New York one comes up, because again, there's actual grid, like electricity problems. Sometimes, electricity goes down, drops, grid issues. So they'll have a backup. Or just a server failure. Usually, the average, I would assume, is around $2,000 to $8,000 per month, and about $10,000 easily. If they do double, especially, at least $10,000 upfront cost. For the small group, I think I break it down into 2. So there's excellent and average. Excellent is physical hardware, but there's a few groups I think will run physical hardware. It depends. When I say physical hardware, there's 2 differences. There's some that run physical hardware professionally, like in a real data center, and like a high availability, high quality data center like Equinix, and other run physical hardware in their dorm room. So there's a difference there. I've seen, there's validator companies that run their software on their school computers. I recommend you not do that. The liability issues. Imagine if you're running it on your school servers, and you have like a few $1 million delegated to you. It gets slashed. Your delegator sue you, but realize you don't have an entity, or you're just in school. They go after the school. School goes crazy at you. It can create a lot of problems. They run cloud or physical HSM. They have single or no redundancy. A lot of times I've seen them have some form of redundancy. And then it's about $5,000 to $10,000 upfront cost, $2,000 to $5,000 a month. That's an excellent small group. Your average physical hardware is in a cheap, free location. HSM or no HSM, no redundancy. And so when you're looking to start a company, I think validator company, I think go around and just ask the other validator companies, go to conferences and approach them and learn about their setups, learn about what they're doing. We've seen this whole range of them, from everything from on this whole range. And, sometimes it worries us, because we see like, there's $10 million delegated to this validator, and we know, we don't want to say anything, but we know that, they're running it on they have a really bad setup. It concerns us. The last part is enthusiasts. Some of them run a MacBook Pro, old computer, or $50 digital a month Ocean Droplet, or Windows 95 PC. So average professional validator cost breakdown. So this is your average. This is not your top tier. This is just your straight average. And so Dell servers Just give an example, ballpark figure 5 to 7K. HSM's like a cheap HSM's like a YubiKey, it's $750. Other expenses, maybe $1,000, router, cables and such. Data center, a cabinet at Equinix. Equinix is one of the top data center providers in the United States. You can go down from there. Like Equinix is at the top tier. Every other data, like Digital Realty, is really good as well, but a lot of the other ones are not as good in terms of having like redundant power supplies, all redundant internet, professionalism, having security. So cabinet is not super secure; it's simply just a lock. And secured cage, which is a wholly fenced off cage, is about easily $3,000 a month. Sentries, most validators run, for Cosmos specifically, you need 4 to 5 sentries, I believe, and they're at least $100 per month for each. You're going to need tooling, you're going to need monitoring, you're going to have development time. You can do this yourself if you're a very experienced engineer, you can do this. But, when I looked into this a long time ago, you need someone, kind of like a back-end engineer at Google to do this. And, in the Bay Area, it's about $250,000 a year in salary. So you probably have to find a partner to have them do this if you're not super technical. And backups, most professional companies have a second data center, as mentioned earlier, with a server on standby, so nearly doubling the cost of hardware. And I'll just give you a ballpark here, like, hardware, we're looking at 12.75 thousand. You multiply by 2, there's around 25,000 in cost. Ongoing costs, 2,000 a month times 2. I just simply added the data center instead of just doubling it, so it's about 3.5. And this is on the conservative side. There are ways to shave money off here and there, get a cheaper data center. Use old servers like Supermicro servers, but to run it well, this is what easily you're looking at. Okay, so you look at when you have the cost breakdown and then you have the validator profitability, you look at the numbers and they kind of don't make sense, right? So you look at Stakefish, they do 15,000 a month. Course One, one of our friends over at Course One, we just did some math here. They do 11,000 per month. And this is when you factor in engineering salary. So 2 times 2 engineers at $120,000 a year per year salaries. That's $10,000 a month. That's $20,000 per month total. You see, you run into the red very quickly, and you need these people because these things have to be up 24/7. So you have to be on call 24/7. You have pager duty. So in the middle of the night, you're sleeping. Your validator goes down. Especially for high critical blockchains like Cosmos, you don't have to wake up and see what's going on. It's hard to hire these type of people because most people, especially if you're generally hiring an employee, they're not going to be on call 24/7. You tell them to wake up at 3 a.m., they're just not going to pick up their phone, right? So at the time, if you're going to start with a company, it's going to have to be you that generally has to do that. And generally, professional teams have at least 2 people because covering it 24/7 is a lot of time, a lot of work. And yeah. Again, I dropped the total hardware in there just for reference. So you can see, 15,000 a month on profitability, 20 month in salaries, and then ongoing costs is like 3.5K a month. So the question is, why are some validators charging 0 commission and or losing money, right? So the math doesn't quite add up. So a lot of the validators are funds and exchanges or are self-staking. So they're large investors, whatnot, and they're staking and funds themselves. So they're doing it to capture. They're doing it for, I think some of them are doing it for learning experience. Some of them are doing it just to capture the full yield of their staking instead of giving it away to somebody else. Others simply just doesn't trust third-party validators for security, for legal, for taxation purposes. Some offer low commission for delegations and raise rates later. I'll give an example. Sika was one of the largest validators on Cosmos. They started off offering 0% commission, and they grew from, I recall the early days, like 1 to 2 million atoms in delegation grew to, I think, 12 or peaked at 12 or 14, one of the largest. And now they're about 10.4 million, one of the largest still. But they kept it at 0. They were known as the people's validator, or the Sunny from the team. And so what happened was that they went from 0 to 3%. And I think we saw a slight dip in delegation value there. And so there's a lot of them, some validators use that as an incentive to get delegations. Some are VC backed and just can set money on fire. Yeah, that's self-explanatory. They might be losing money on one chain and making more on others. I'll cover that in a little bit. Marketing, some validators will run deficits on certain chains because they could say, look, we have like we're on every single major chain, just come to us with your money and we can make it happen. Even though, some of them are making money, others are losing money. So a lot of them are just low cost of living countries. So they just located in various low cost locations and or part-time teams. So if you're, if the average salary in your country is 10,000 USD per year, running a data center is $50 a month. Your cost can be significantly less than what it costs in, for example, United States, specifically, San Francisco Bay Area. And the last part is just Binance style versus Coinbase, which is kind of the same thing where, Binance, for example, to do I believe a round trip trade. So if you buy Bitcoin and sell Bitcoin, it's like $17. And on if you do like a $10,000 transaction, I did this math a month ago or so. But Binance is like Coinbase is like $250. So it's a massive multiple increase in costs. And again, that is kind of like how the company is structured and the location is structured. Okay, so being a profitable validator company, if it's not a profitable, it's a hobby, not a job, right? So keeping costs low while maintaining adequate security and availability. One of the things of how you make them profitable is multiple chains. So if you make, let's say, there's economies of scale. So if you build one validator, it might be $5,000. You build a second one, might be half of that. Third one might be half of that. Fourth one might be a third of that. And so there's economies of scale, and you're sharing bandwidth a lot of times. You're sharing, but you have like, you just become far more efficient at running them. And so that's how you really become a profitable validated company. Is you can't just be on one chain generally. There's very few examples of that. There are a few companies out there that are just on one chain, maybe two chains, and they're very profitable. But generally, you're gonna have to support a lot more chains that way. And you want to be early. So the earlier you are to the chains, the more chances of you getting more delegations. Because what happens is you become known in the community, you post in the chats, you participate in forums, you talk to the team can recommend some of their investors or people who hold a lot of their tokens to delegate to you or work with you or contact you. And so the way to do it is multiple chains, very easy takeaway, multiple chains, and start early. That's the two best strategies to building a profitable validated company. Other ones have offered products and services. You can either a white glove service for people that are not involved in crypto. I've seen this happen where they're like, hey, give us 10,000 USD. We convert it to atoms for you. We delegate to our validator and we give you the return automatically for you. That's all coming. Other products is like, hey, we built a wallet for you. If you want to use our wallet, you delegate to us, or some of them, or some last one, hey, if you delegate to us with our money, we're going to fund research. Another one is be based abroad. Being based in the US is very expensive, that's a given. And the last one is participate in staking competition, receiving bounties. So this can be fairly profitable depending on the prizes of these staking competitions. So there's a lot of these validators and competitions that even they just give you money just to participate. Like you don't even have to. You can spool up a $5 digital ocean droplet and participate, sign up and participate, and you'll actually receive money. And there's going to be various bounties you can collect on these. So, for example, best attack. There's going to be like best uptime. And so, if you're just younger and you don't have the capital to build a professional, you can start participating in this. And then once you do, you build a reputation, and then the team will actually, or other people will find out about your reputation, and then they will delegate to you. So, what we at the end of the day is, being a profitable validated company, the biggest barrier is simply the cost and the expertise. The expertise is rare. The costs are prohibitively high. And so this is like a problem that, the Certus One team has been thinking about for some time. And we decided to work on a solution called SignOS. Now, what SignOS is, I'm not going to really cover too much of it, but the goal of it is the overarching effect of it on the economics is about a 60% decrease in costs. It dramatically improves availability and security, and it nearly allows anyone with a basic system administration abilities. Like if you can launch AWS instances, you can be able to run a top tier, like a professional, an excellent professional level validator. So that is kind of the goal of SignOS. We'll have more information about that at later dates. We're about to enter closed beta, I think, fairly soon. Hendrik should be able to cover more of this. Okay, so we're going to talk about I'm going to cover a little bit more about the future. So there's something called shared security. I think that will benefit anybody looking to start a validated company. Well, so what shared security is, instead of, for example, on Cosmos, you're going to have all of these various chains being built on there. And currently, with the current design mechanism, is that each of these chains needs their own validator sets. So if you have like 20 projects being built on Cosmos, 20 chains, you'll need 20 sets of validators, right? So if it's a validated company, you have to set up 20 validators, which is kind of intense. And so shared security means essentially that, you know, if you run one validator, these chains will all be able to share the same validators. And so if you're making money on 15 chains and you need to run one validator, that can be very, very profitable. So we are really looking forward to that. Software that makes it easier and dramatically decreases cost. So that's what kind of SignOS covers. One of the things I noted here is knows a lot of people, I think, listening to this from university. So what I would like to see into the future, and this is going to happen 100%, I really hope, you know, it's going to happen, is that I want to start seeing university groups run validators. I think that university groups, once something like SignOS or other software like this, where a group of university students can run a high availability, high secure validator, and students can experiment and learn about it. I think is going to be key, because with something like SignOS is that you don't need the super intense professionals to manage them all the time, and you don't need to manage them 24/7. You have a bunch of, you know, what they say, casuals managing them, and it should work great. The inevitable commoditization. So, and then what we're going to see in the future as well is that we're currently just starting to see this trend, but, you know, we've thought about this for the last year. We're going to start seeing exchanges, custodians, funds dominate more, and this is actually kind of concerning. Just imagine the top 10 validators are all exchanges and custodians. I think it's really detrimental to the network. As next is decrease in rewards. And so some of these networks have, you know, some of the economics where if there's more of the percentage network staked, the rewards decrease. And so, but in this, I'm not saying that is at the protocol level design that I'm talking about. I'm talking about specifically at the commission level. So what I think is going to happen is, as more validators companies enter, I think the commissions are going to start dropping. It's going to be a race to the bottom. So, you know, I encourage you, if you're going to start a validator company, don't think about racing to the bottom. I think it's the most instinctual thing to do, is to think of, you know, how do I get cheaper so I can race to the bottom? Again, like, you know, think outside the box a little bit and don't think about racing to the bottom. Think about what could you do to, you know, get more delegations and have people pay a premium. It's like create a more premium product as opposed to, you know, purely on an economic scale. That, because running a race to the bottom is not any type of business where you really want to compete in. Racing to the bottom is generally not a very good business strategy. The next part that I'm really excited for is securitization. So once, you know, in the future, these kind of staking, if you think of it, at the end of the day, is almost like like an investment bond. So they have a potential yield. And what I want to see is kind of the next part, which is financial products. So, for example, you know, boomers like my mom, who's a total boomer, she's able to buy these products. So I would love it if she has an IRA or 401k or an E-Trade account. She can log on there, click. Oh, look, I want to buy a bond that represents staking for these 5 protocols. Click buy, and that's kind of what I hope to see in the future. Or it will happen one day. It's a matter of when. It's not a matter of if. Okay, so some tools and resources. I'll be posting this deck after this, so you can click on through them. Last one, there's a top 50 crypto memes of all time, just to entertain yourself a little bit. And that's it. So I left a few minutes for Q&A. You can learn more about us at Certus.one. My email directly is richard@certus.one. If you email me, I will respond. And you follow me on Twitter. It's just Megatron. So right now, I'm just going to look over if there's any. I'm just going to read some of the questions. So one of them is, do exchanges like Binance and Coinbase farm out their staking to other staking companies? So this is a good question, David. So from our experience, there has been. So there's, without revealing, I think, too much information, because I'm not sure what can be revealed, they were thinking about, the exchanges initially were thinking about delegating to third parties. But then I think they realized that running their own was actually going to be far cheaper and far easier and less stressful from a legal and delegation perspective. And so even though I think in the future, ideally, I believe in the future that they will start delegating to third parties as opposed to centralizing on top of their own, once they start realizing that, let's say, Binance, Coinbase, and all of them have massive pools and it's actually detrimental to the protocol. That day, I think, will come, but it could be, you know, a few years from now. Okay, so there's, you know, what will cause double signing? So I think that's more of a technical question. I can answer that. If you just email me, I can help you answer that. I think for this economic side, I'm just not going to quite cover that. Okay, so another question I see is, what type of value add products would you like to see? I think building a way to really handhold people. I think the whole process of buying a token, staking a token, earning yield, reinvesting that yield, withdrawing the token, unbonding the token, waiting 21 days, move it to exchange, sell it on exchange for USD, wire the USD into your account. That whole process is very hard. And so making something like that easier, too, I think having a really nice wallet. So you got to keep in mind, a lot of these new networks have really terrible wallets. There's a massive opportunity to build a really nice wallet from day one. Now you can say a trust wallet or whatever, a wallet integrated, but you can have other functions. And I think if you're early enough, you can build some really interesting tooling. The obvious tooling out there is like block explorers. But I think, really pay attention. Look at some of the up and coming proof of stake protocols and really pay attention to what the community needs. Okay, so the question is, how can small people get rewarded without high level knowledge? That is the hardest part, right? I wish there was an answer for you. I really don't. And that was a problem, personally, something I struggled with. And so what I recommend is just waiting. We need something like SignWest that makes it easy. Like, I'm thinking it needs to be as easy in the future. I'm imagining it's got to be easy as launching like a Heroku or something so simple. I have very little technical knowledge. I log into this platform, I type in my name, and I click like, I want to launch a Cosmos and a Tezos validator. I click on Cosmos. I click on like, I enter my AWS credentials, my Google Cloud credentials, my DigitalOcean credentials, click spool up, and boom, I got a validator and the key that's right there, and people can start delegating for me. That's what it needs to be. Until we get to a step like that, unfortunately, the people without the technical knowledge can't really do that. Okay, so I'm a university student in Korea, and I want to know what is the key reason why university students need, or why is it necessary to participate in SignOS? So the reason why is SignOS makes it much easier for you guys. Like, if you're trying to run a Cosmos validator without SignOS today, it's a huge, huge struggle. It's extremely difficult, extremely expensive, and extremely time intensive. And so this is a big problem for university students. You can't do this full time. You're not available 24/7. You don't have a technical CTO. Yeah. So yes, so Keegan says, so essentially you need a team.
Hey guys, we probably have time for one more question.
Okay, one more question. It's a good one. Okay, so there's one that's really technical by Juliana. I think I'll answer that later on, but I think this one, do staking companies need custodian licenses to stake clients token USD? No, you do not, because you're not actually holding the assets. So if someone stakes atoms to me, they still hold the private keys. I don't have control of that. They can remove it whenever they want. I can't transfer them. I can't do anything. Yeah, I think that's good. Is that one more question? Okay, so last one I think I'll answer is, somebody asked, what is SignOS, company or service that ServiceOne provides? If it's a company, please explain what they do. So it's going to be a software that we provide. You'll be able to, it's like a software package. You'll be able to install it and launch it, and it will manage it generally for you. So we haven't figured out pricing quite yet. I think once we finish closed beta with a few companies and a few blockchains, we'll have more information about that. Okay, guys, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yes.
If you have any other questions, just email me.
We're going to pass it off to the next speaker.